Assalamu alaikum, dear students. I welcome you all to this another video lecture on endocrine system. And today in this video lecture we are going to discuss about the hormones. Before we start, I hope you have watched the earlier videos on endocrine system. If you have not watched yet, please go and watch them first so that you can understand this better. So, hormones, these are the chemical messengers. These hormones are chemical messengers and these chemical messengers, which are usually secreted by the endocrine glands, okay? These hormones are the chemical messengers which are secreted by endocrine glands, and after being secreted by endocrine glands, they are transported by blood to the different target cells and tissues of the body. Or we can say they are transported to the site of action. Fine. So hormones are the chemical messengers. Chemical messengers are special chemical substances which are used in the intercellular communication or cell signaling. Okay, so these chemical messengers, which are hormones, they are secreted by endocrine glands and then are transported by blood to the different cells and tissues of the body where they perform or execute the specific action. Okay, now, as mentioned, these hormones are transported by blood, so definitely they will be transported to all the parts of the body, but these hormones can only show their effect or action when there will be special receptors for the given hormones present on the target cell. Okay, only the hormone can show action on only those organs or cells or tissues where there will be receptors present for that given hormone. For example, there is one hormone which is called as TSH. Okay, that is thyroid stimulating hormone. Thyroid stimulating hormone is secreted by anterior pituitary, and as the name indicates, it goes and acts on the thyroid gland. Thyroid gland. Okay, this thyroid stimulating hormone, it goes and acts on the thyroid gland. It stimulates the thyroid gland and leads to the secretion of the thyroid hormones, that is T3 and T4. This thyroid stimulating hormone is circulated throughout the body, but it only shows its effect on the thyroid gland because there are these special receptors present on the thyroid gland which are the special receptors for the thyroid stimulating hormone. Now this thyroid stimulating hormone, it does not go and bind on the kidneys, it does not go and bind on the ovaries because there are not these specific receptors for this thyroid stimulating hormone on those organs, but the receptors are present on the thyroid gland, so this thyroid hormone shows its effect majorly on the thyroid gland. I hope it is clear. Now, these hormones are classified, okay, into various types. And when we talk about the general classification of hormones, these hormones are classified into two types. Okay, the first one is circulating hormones. Circulating hormones, and the second type is the local hormones. Okay, I hope you got the difference. Circulating hormones are most of the endocrine hormones are actually circulating hormones. Okay, circulating hormones are those hormones which are secreted by endocrine glands, which are secreted by the secretory cells, and then are transported throughout the body by the blood circulation. Okay, that is why they are called as circulating hormones. Fine. On the other hand, these local hormones, they are not transported by the blood circulation, but after being released by the secretory cell, suppose this is the secretory cell or the control cell or the signal cell, and they release these local hormones. Okay, and now these local hormones, what they do is either they act on the same cell from where they were released, or they act on the neighboring cells without being transported in the blood circulation. Okay, they act on the target cell, or they act on the same cell from where they were released. Okay, if they are acting on the same cell from where they were secreted, that is called as autocrine. We have already discussed all these in the previous videos. And if these local hormones, they are acting on the neighboring cell, then this is called as the paracrine. Fine. So, general classification of hormones is we divide these hormones into two major types. First is circulating hormones, and then there is local hormones. Circulating hormones, after being secreted by the secretory cell, these hormones go into the interstitial fluid, and then they go into the blood circulation, and through blood circulation they reach the target cell. Okay, and on the other hand, these local hormones, they are secreted by the signal cell or the control cell or the secretory cell. They go into the interstitial fluid, and after going into interstitial fluid, they either act on the same cell from where they were released, and if they are doing so, they are called as autocrines. And if these hormones act on the neighboring cells after going into the interstitial fluid, then these are called as the paracrines. Fine. So this is the general classification of hormones. Now, these hormones are classified based on their chemical nature also. Okay, based on the chemical nature of hormones, we broadly divide these hormones into two major types. First is lipid soluble hormones. Lipid soluble, and the second is water soluble. Water soluble. Okay, so when we talk about the chemical classification of hormones, or the classification of hormones based on their chemical nature, so we divide these hormones into two types. First is lipid soluble, and then there is water soluble. Okay, the difference is very clear. Those hormones which are soluble in lipids are called as lipid soluble, and those who are not soluble in lipids, they are water soluble. They are soluble in water, they are called as water soluble. Okay, now we have three types of hormones which come under this category, lipid soluble. Okay, first is which are called as steroids or steroid hormones. First is steroid hormones. Then second is thyroid hormones. Thyroid hormones. Fine. And the third is one gas, which is the nitric oxide. Fine. So, based on the chemical nature, we have two types of hormones. First is lipid soluble hormones, which are soluble in lipids. Okay, and under this lipid soluble category, first is steroid hormones. We'll be discussing that. in a while. And then second is thyroid hormones, and the third is nitric oxide, which is a gas, which is actually a neurotransmitter as well as a hormone. Fine. Then we have water soluble. Water soluble hormones under this category of water soluble hormones, first is amines. Okay, or amino acid derivatives, okay, which are derived from specific amino acids. Okay, and the second is peptide hormones or protein hormones. Peptide or protein hormones. Okay, and the third is ecosonoids. Fine. So now we'll see which hormones fall in which category. We will discuss in a while. So first, let me repeat this again. These hormones, based on their chemical nature, are divided into two types. First is lipid-soluble hormones. Then there are water-soluble hormones. Lipid-soluble, under this category, lipid-soluble hormones, which are soluble in lipids, we have the steroid hormones, we have the thyroid hormones, and we have one gas, that is nitric oxide. And under this water-soluble category, the hormones, we have the amines or amino acid derivatives, then we have peptide or protein hormones, and the third is we have ecosonoids. Okay, so first let us talk about the lipid soluble hormones. So lipid soluble hormones, as I've already told, lipid soluble hormones are the hormones which are soluble in lipids. It's very simple. Okay, so first is the steroid hormones. Steroid hormones. These steroid hormones are all those hormones which are derived from cholesterol. Derived from cholesterol. Okay, these are cholesterol derivatives. Fine. So steroid hormones, which are all those hormones which are derived from cholesterol. They are called as steroid hormones. Okay. So first, in this category, we have the hormones which are secreted by adrenal cortex. Adrenal cortex. Okay, suppose we have aldosterone, fine, we have cortisol, okay, and we also have the androgens. Fine. We have the aldosterone, we have the cortisol, we have androgens, which come under this steroid hormones. That is the first category, which are the hormones secreted by the adrenal cortex. Okay. Then second is one hormone which is secreted by kidney. Okay. And the hormone which is secreted by kidney, that is the calcitriol. Fine. And the third is we have the hormone which is secreted by testes, that is testosterone. And the fourth is which are secreted by ovaries, and that is estrogen and progesterone. Fine. So under the lipid soluble hormones, the first category of hormones is steroid hormones. And steroid hormones include all those hormones which are derived from cholesterol or which are cholesterol derivatives. Okay, and under all these hormones which are derived from cholesterol, they are the aldosterone, cortisol, and androgens, which are secreted by the adrenal cortex. Then we have the calcitriol, which is secreted by the kidneys, and testosterone, which is secreted by the testes, and estrogen and progesterone, which are secreted by ovaries. Okay, all these are the steroid hormones, which are the derivatives of cholesterol. Then the second category of these lipid-soluble hormones, we have the thyroid hormones. Thyroid hormones. Okay, thyroid hormones are two hormones which are secreted by the thyroid gland, and they are T3 and T4. T3 and T4, or we can say that is triiodothyronine, okay, and T4 is the tetraiodothyronine or thyroxine. Fine. These thyroid hormones are synthesized, okay, they are synthesized by attaching the iodine with one special amino acid, that is tyrosine. Okay, these thyroid hormones, we will inshallah see the synthesis of these thyroid hormones, how they are synthesized actually. They are actually synthesized by attaching iodine with an amino acid, that is tyrosine. Okay, and these thyroid hormones, that is triiodothyronine and thyroxine, they are actually lipid soluble hormones. Actually, in their structures, there are two benzene rings. That the presence of those two benzene rings actually within these tetraiodo and triiodothyronine molecules make these molecules very lipid soluble. Okay, so these thyroid hormones also fall in the category of lipid soluble hormones. Then the third is nitric oxide. Okay, nitric oxide, it is a gas which is secreted as a neurotransmitter as well as a hormone. Okay, and this nitric oxide is released by the endothelial lining of blood vessels. Okay, by the endothelial cells of the blood vessels. Fine, this nitric oxide is released. Fine, endothelial cells. Endothelial lining of blood vessels, they secrete this nitric oxide. What are the actions that we will separately discuss inshallah. And this nitric oxide is also a lipid soluble hormone. Fine. This is also a lipid soluble hormone. So we have seen under this category of lipid soluble hormones, we have three types of hormones. First is steroid hormones. And steroid hormones are the hormones which are derived from cholesterol. When they are derived from cholesterol, so definitely they will be lipid soluble hormones. And we have certain hormones which are derived from this cholesterol. We have aldosterone, we have cortisol, we have androgens, we have calcitriol, we have testosterone, we have estrogen, we have progesterone. Okay, then the second category is the thyroid hormones. That is two thyroid hormones, triiodothyronine and tetraiodothyronine, and these hormones are secreted by the thyroid glands. Okay, and these are also lipid soluble. Then there is one gas which is nitric oxide, which is secreted by the endothelial lining of the blood vessels, and that acts as a neurotransmitter as well as a hormone, and that is also a lipid soluble hormone. Fine. Now we have water soluble hormones. Water soluble hormones. Okay. Now water soluble hormones में the first one is amines or amines. Okay, or they are also called as amino acid derivatives. Fine. These amino acid derivatives or amine hormones, they are actually synthesized by decarboxylating certain amino acids. Okay, these amines, they are synthesized by decarboxylating or modifying certain amino acids. Okay, what is decarboxylation? That is removing the molecule of carbon dioxide. So we remove the carbon dioxide molecule from certain amino acids, or we modify certain amino acids, and then these amines or amine hormones are derived or synthesized. Okay. Now these are called as amines because they retain an amine group. Okay, we are removing the carbon dioxide molecule, but these amines, they are retaining the amine group. Okay, amine group in these amino acids is still there, so they are called as amine hormones. Okay, so fine, we are removing the carbon dioxide, we are only doing the decarboxylation, that is removing the carbon dioxide, but this amine group is still there with the amino acids, so that is why they have been given the name as amines or amine hormones or amino acid derivatives. Okay, suppose we have certain hormones which are secreted by the adrenal medulla. Okay, we have certain hormones which are secreted by adrenal medulla. We have norepinephrine. Okay, then we have one more, that is dopamine. These hormones are called as catecholamines. Okay, these hormones are secreted by the adrenal medulla. Okay, and these hormones are synthesized by modifying one hormone. Okay, these are synthesized by modifying one hormone that is called as tyrosine. Fine. So we have these three hormones which fall in the category of this amino acid derivatives or amine hormones. We have the adrenaline, we have the noradrenaline, we have the dopamine, and these are synthesized by modifying the amino acid tyrosine. Okay. Then we have one more, that is histamine. Okay. This amino acid is synthesized from one amino acid which is called as histidine. Fine. This histamine is a hormone which is secreted by certain cells in our body, and it is synthesized by the modification of this amino acid, which is called as histidine. Okay, so, and there is one more hormone, that is serotonin and melatonin. Okay, serotonin and melatonin. Let me write it here. Serotonin and melatonin. Okay, these two are secreted or synthesized by modifying one hormone that is called as tryptophan. Fine. So let me repeat this. These amines or amine hormones or amino acid derivatives, these are the hormones which are synthesized after decarboxylating certain amino acids. Okay, what is decarboxylation? That is removing the carbon dioxide molecule. Now they are named as amines or amine hormones because they retain the amine group. Okay, this is removed and this still remains there, this amine group, so they are named as amine hormones. Fine. Suppose, for example, we have these hormones which are called as catecholamines. We have epinephrine or adrenaline, norepinephrine or noradrenaline, and then dopamine. They are synthesized by modifying this amino acid, that is tyrosine. Then after modification of histidine, we get histamine, and after modification of tryptophan, we get serotonin and melatonin. Okay, so this is the first category of the water-soluble hormones, which are called as amine hormones. Then the second category is the peptide hormones. Peptide hormones and protein hormones. Okay, we have the peptide hormones and protein hormones. Okay, as the name suggests, these peptide hormones and protein hormones, they are amino acid polymers. Okay, amino acid polymers. That means these are made up of the chains of amino acids. Okay, amino acid polymers are these peptide hormones and protein hormones. Okay, and the smaller peptide hormone, okay, the peptide hormone, why we are naming them peptide hormones separately and protein hormones separately. Okay, actually it depends upon the chains of amino acids. Okay, how many amino acids are there? Depending upon that, we are giving them the name either a peptide hormone or a protein hormone. Okay, the peptide hormone is smaller actually than the protein hormone. Okay, this peptide hormone or a smaller peptide hormone, they consist the chains of 3 to 49 amino acids. 3 to 49 amino acids. Okay, and the protein hormones, they are bigger actually, and they contain from 50 to 200 amino acids. Okay, for example, we have certain peptide hormones which are secreted in our body. For example, we have antidiuretic hormone, we have oxytocin. Okay, we have the ADH, and we have oxytocin, which are secreted by the posterior pituitary. Okay, sorry. Fine. We have the antidiuretic hormone, and we have oxytocin, which are the peptide hormones, and the protein hormones, which contain the 50 to 200 amino acids. Okay, and in this protein hormones, we have suppose thyroid stimulating hormones, and thyroid stimulating hormones, which is secreted by anterior pituitary gland. Okay, thyroid stimulating hormone. Fine. So the second category of the water-soluble hormones, we have peptide hormones and protein hormones. And these peptide and protein hormones are actually amino acid polymers. That means they are made up of the chains of amino acids. Okay, and peptide hormones are smaller as compared to protein hormones. Peptide hormones, they contain 3 to 49 amino acids, and the protein hormones are bigger than peptide hormones, which contain 50 to 200 amino acids. Okay, then the peptide hormones, we have the antidiuretic hormone and oxytocin, which are secreted by the posterior pituitary, and the protein hormone, we have thyroid stimulating hormone, which is secreted by anterior pituitary. Okay, then the third category of water soluble proteins, we have ecosonoids. Okay, these ecosonoid hormones, they are actually derived from arachidonic acid. Okay, arachidonic acid, that is a 20 carbon fatty acids. That is arachidonic acid. Okay, these ecosonoid hormones, they are derived from this arachidonic acid, which is a fatty acid, okay, which is a 20 carbon fatty acids. Okay, and the two major types of ecosonoid hormones which are secreted in our body, they are the prostaglandins and leukotrienes. Prostaglandins. Okay, and the leukotrienes. And both these hormones are called as ecosonoid hormones, and both these hormones are synthesized from a fatty acid which is called as arachidonic acid, and this is actually a 20 carbon fatty acids. Okay, and these ecosonoid hormones, they are important local hormones actually. Okay, I have already mentioned the difference between the circulating hormones and the local hormones, and these two fall in that category. These are the local hormones, and they may act as circulating hormones as well. Okay, they usually act as the local hormones, but they may act as circulating hormones as well. They may be transported by the blood circulation also. Okay, so we have seen the classification of hormones, the general classification of hormones. We have seen there are two types of hormones. One is the circulating hormone, which are transported by the blood circulation throughout the body, and they are transported to the target cells. Then we have local hormones. They are not circulated, or they are not transported by the blood circulation. After going into interstitial fluid, they either act on the same cell from where it was released, or they act on the neighboring cells. Okay, then the classification of hormones based on their chemical nature. These hormones are divided into two types. One is the lipid soluble hormone, and the second is water soluble hormone. Lipid soluble, which are soluble in lipids, and then there is water soluble, which are soluble in water. Okay, lipid soluble, under this lipid soluble category, we have three types of hormones. One is the steroids or steroid hormones, then the second is thyroid hormones, and third is gas nitric oxide. Okay, and under the water soluble category, we have the amine hormones or amino acid derivatives, and we have peptides and proteins, and then we have ecosonoids. Okay, and we have seen the different hormones which are secreted in our body, which fall in these different categories of hormones. Okay, and this chemical classification is actually important functionally also, because these different types of hormones, based on the chemical nature, have the different mechanism of action. Okay, water soluble hormones, they act differently in our body or on the target cells, and the water soluble hormones, they have the different mechanism of action. Okay, and mechanism of action of hormones we will be discussing in the next lecture. I hope you enjoyed today's, and if you did, please like and share this video, and if you have not subscribed to this channel yet, please subscribe and press the bell icon so that you can watch my upcoming videos on the go. See you in the next lecture then. Till then, Allah Hafiz.